What's up, guys? This is Zach from Flash Out Media. I'm with that guy Harley, man. He finally got me. It's been 2 weeks in a row, but he trumped me on
Yeah,
the
it's finally
card.
got me one.
Yeah. So we're here to recap, the UFC fight night that just happened. We also had Bellator, PFL, and we did have a 140 title fight in boxing with Regis Progress. So we're gonna cover all that. First thing we're gonna get into is the UFC fight card. We have Modestas Bukauskas taking on Zach Pagua, and Zach Pagua put up a really good fight, but Modestas, man, he did just enough to stuff the takedowns and land some significant strikes. And up until the third round, man, it could have been 1-1 in my opinion, and it really came down to the last 30 seconds. Whoever was gonna get that extra strikes and wins the fight, and Modestas pulled it off. Was this surprising for you?
No, man, like I said, competitive fight, and I figured both guys would have their moments. But it boiled down to Bukowski's um, being able to sub those takedowns and outstrike five on us with a victory. And that's kind of what I had my sights set on when it came to this matchup was Puaga being able, I'm sorry, Bukowski being able to stuff some takedowns, get his strikes off, and win the striking battle to get the victory. And that's pretty much what happened. Like I said, close fight, but it played out pretty much like I thought it would, with Bukowski's getting the win.
That makes Bukauskas 2-0 in his UFC resurgence. He did get cut, won his Cage Warriors belt, won a two-fight win streak outside the UFC, and now he is 2-0 over good competition, man. Zach Pogba, made it to the finals on tough. He beat Tyson Pedro. So I think Modestas is a guy to keep your eyes on at 205. Moving up the card, we got Ronnie Lawrence and Daniel Argueta. Another one we called. We said Argueta was going to be the better wrestler. He showed it. Things were looking good. He lands a guillotine choke, and the ref goes to see if he's still good. And when the ref lifts his hands up, it kind of looks like the motion of a tap, but it wasn't, and they stopped the fight. Um, One thing that I dislike that happened, but one thing that I liked is that the ref owned up to it and called it a no contest. Sometimes in fights, you'll see these things happen, and I think now they have a replay and they can, review things. And, the ref could have said, I'm going with my move. That wasn't a mistake. It looked like a tap, but he owned up to it. And, this is a no contest now. Unfortunate. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, like you said, very unfortunate way for any fight to, and you hate to see it, but in this day and age, especially with things that's been happening, with judges uh, controversy with judges. Uh, you look at the boxing fight a few weeks back with Rolly Romero, with the terrible stops with Tony Weeks and things of that nature. Um, in this day and age, like you said, you don't see officials owning up to their mistakes.
Yep.
They want to say, "Hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm the head man in charge. I'm gonna do what I thought is right." And no, no, no. This who I forget who the official was in this matchup here, but props to him on owning his mistake and doing the right thing, you know, and not shying away from what happened.
So moving up the card, we had Teresa Bleda beating Gabriel Fernandez. Man, it's crazy because Fernandez shows such good striking, such good striking. She just does not have the best takedown defense, and she has no urgency to get up. Bleda is nothing taken away from Bleda. Bleda, was able to implement her ground game, keep it on the ground. It's just the thing with Bleda is I see a lot of openings striking, and she does tend to fade after round two.
Yes.
If Fernandez would have had a little bit better takedown defense, I mean, she was hurting her in the third round. Fernandez, I think, needs to go back outside the UFC and work on what she needs to work on. I'm not sure if she's still gonna have a UFC career. And Bleda definitely needs to work on some striking. Thoughts on this fight, Harley?
Oh yeah, man. Pretty much what we call it again. Blader was able to implement her ground game, which she needed to. That's what carried her to get the victory. Like you said though, uh, uh, Blader was getting out stuck on the feet. Her opponent didn't have the wherewithal to get up. And in a situation like that, you gotta have urgency to get up. You know, like you always say to these students, sleep, submit, or get up. You can't just lay on your back. You got to be active on your back. Even
Yep.
if you're not throwing up submissions, you got to do something.
Yep.
You know, and that's really what cost her the fight. And props to Blada. But yeah, I think she needs to go back to the drawing board and, like you said, work on some things before trying to take that next step again. But props to Blada. She implemented her game plan and did what she had to do to get the job done.
Most def. Moving up the card, we had Carlos Hernandez beating Denis Bondor over a technical decision. Another kind of weird fight where, leading up to what happened at the end, Hernandez was throwing a lot of strikes. Looked very good boxing. Bondor very tough, walking forward damn near the whole time. Wasn't putting as much output, but was able to get a couple takedowns, and Hernandez was able to pop right back up. That's what we talk about, sweep somebody to get up, and that was a great example of that. Third round, Hernandez ends up getting like a body lock takedown, and when he lands, his head lands on Bondor's head, causing him to get knocked out. Rains a couple elbows while he's unconscious, and then they essentially call the fight. They review it, clash of heads, ended up knocking them out, and they go to the scorecards on a decision. It's very unfortunate because, like, if you're wrestling, you can't control, you know,
Yeah,
if your head's gonna collide with the other guy and the mat stopping you. You really don't have any control. You're really taught to put your head on their head, if you're a wrestler, head control. So I mean, that's a tough spot. I get why they reviewed it because it wasn't a strike that knocked him out. But at the same time, that's wrestling. That's a takedown. I think that should have probably been a TKO.
yeah. Another thing that you don't see every day, that's controversial because I see that too. Like you said, that's part of the game. That's part of wrestling. Like you said, one of the biggest things in wrestling is head control, and you know, just so happened that he clashed heads and he ended up getting knocked out. So I can see the argument on both sides, but I guess the rule states if you get knocked out by a head, but uh, then that's a technical decision. Go to the scorecards and look. The thing about it is, man, whether we agree with that rule or not, the purpose of instant replay is to get the call right, and they were
Yeah.
able to get it right. So that's the main thing, man. You hate to see a fight in that way with controversy like that, but props to Carlos Hernandez to go in there and get the job done in a really competitive fight, man. So props
Yeah,
to
and
him.
I'm glad they got that instant replay now too, because I mean, we've seen time and time again fights, especially like knees to the ground of the opponent. Sometimes it's not a knee that lands, you know what I'm saying? And now that they have the instant replay, they don't have to wait till the fight's over with. They can make that, on the spot. So I think that's a good thing that's introduced in MMA now. And I'm hoping that every state adopts that rule, if
Yeah.
they're able to. Moving up the card, we had Kung Ho Kang taking on Christian Quinones. Kane getting the win in dominant fashion, round number one, man. We see these matchups over and over again with the UFC. We have a vet taking on a guy coming off the contender series, and we're starting to notice more. The vet usually wins if they have a good, significant fights in the UFC. We've seen it in the Ultimate Fighter right now. The vets are just destroying the prospects. And we thought Quinones was gonna win. He looked very good, but I mean, when you look at the resume Kang has, he has a lot of UFC experience, and he showed it, man. He was able to stay composed when getting hit, stayed a little bit tighter. Boxing was better, and eventually rocked him and put on the rear naked choke, got the dub. Did this surprise you?
Yes and no. It surprised me because I didn't think that he would blow through Quinones the way he did. But like we talked about it in the prediction pod, we both did go with Quinones to get the win. That didn't happen. But we both gave Ken his props. He's a veteran. Had 10, I think, had what, 10 fights in the UFC going into this one.
Yeah, close to
So
it.
he really seen it all, man. He's been in the game for a long time. He's taking his lumps, but he's still here for a reason. You know, and
Most def.
so yeah. it surprised me the way it happened, but it didn't surprise me that King got the victory. A thing that I want to say about this fight before we move on, uh, props to Kane for getting it done. I think Christian Cannonier still has a very bright future in the UFC. He's just gonna have to go to the drawing board, learn from this, and move on. This is his first loss. Uh, so he's got still a long time left in his game. I think he'll be back better than ever. But props to Kane for going in there and fighting a young up and coming prospect when really everybody was writing him off, man. And he went in there and did his thing and showed out. So props to
All right, moving up the card, we had
him.
Alexander Costa, getting his first UFC win over Jimmy Flick. I mean, when you look at a guy like Costa, second fight in the UFC, you could tell this guy's top 15 material. Striking's great, takedown defense is great. Top game's good. Has little nuances of the game that's starting to pick up, like calf kicks, and just throws heavy, heavy, heavy shots, man. And I think this is a guy that you'll see in the top 15 sooner than later. What's your thoughts on Costa, man?
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, he can do a little bit he can do a little bit of everything. Got heavy hands, good takedown defense, got good ground game when he needs it. A very well-rounded fighter. You know, it's hard to get that from a young prospect like Costa. But yeah, man, I agree. I'm very excited to see his future and see if he can continue to evolve his game. And if he can, man, I think he'd be a guy that can really make a run and make some noise in that division.
Absolutely. Next we had Nicholas Dalby getting the unanimous decision over Muslim Salikov. If you'd have told me Dalby was able to, outstrike, outgrapple Salikov,
Yep.
I probably would have disagreed with you. And that's exactly what happened. Nicholas Dalby looked very good against a really, really tough Muslim Salikov, who was coming off a very good win. This is three fights in a row that Dalby wins. Salikov, Alves, Claudio Silva. And he dropped a loss to Tim Means, but before that he beat guys like, Daniel Rodriguez. So Nicholas Darby, 38 years old. Do you think he's gonna get a ranked opponent next?
Dude, I have to beat Muslim Salikov. Possibility. I mean,
Yeah,
dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, dude. Well, I'm gonna say this for Dolby. It's now or never. He's 38 years old. He's just coming up to me, the most solid to win his career, in my opinion, over Muslim Salikov. So I mean, if he's gonna try to make a run, it needs to be now. You
right.
know, for Darby. And looking at this fight, dude, I'm like you. If you'd have told me that Darby just, you know, um, out grappled, out struck, did everything better than Muslim Salikov, I'd have laughed at you. I'm saying this was my surprise in the card right here. This was shocking. Like I was not expecting it. Props to Nicholas Dalby, though, man. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think we have to really break it down. That's a huge win against a very solid game, very well-rounded opponent. We're looking to see Nicholas Dalby back in there as soon as possible, man, because he opened a lot of eyes with that performance.
absolutely. Next up, probably the most exciting finish on the card, Manuel Torres getting the elbow knockout over Nicholas Mata. You had texted me right away on this one, so I'm gonna let you break this one down.
I mean, look, man, fun fight, good striking exchanges. Both guys had their moment. Um, Torres had him against the cage, man, and freaking threw an elbow out of nowhere. At first, I didn't even know what he hit him with at first
Yeah,
until I saw the damn replay, and I was like, oh my god! Like Jack said, man, I texted him right away, and I was like, dude, that was one of the most vicious knockouts I've seen in a long time.
yeah,
And I know people use that term very lightly, but that was
that was bad.
elbow from stand up from the feet, you know, and wow, man, that was man. What did you think whenever you saw that?
I don't know, man. That's something you play around with on the bag, when you're
Yeah,
training and stuff like that. You can't really do it in sparring, and then like you really only see those type of knockouts in Thailand, and to see it in the UFC. quite impressive. I know the only other person I really see throw it a lot is Darren Till, and I'm not sure if he even knocked anybody out with it. I mean, that was the most vicious elbow knockout. Usually, when it's an elbow knockout, it's a spinning elbow, and you're very rare
Yeah,
coming off the backhand. So very impressive, man.
yeah, man. And then look, I want to, talk about us for a minute. Not to get on subject, but you're a coach, and I've seen you work past hundreds of times now with our guys, and things of that nature.
Right.
And you implement the elbow on the backhand. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The back elbow. You implement it, but like you said, that's always on pass. That's always on the back, and you work that.
Right.
But like you said, for that to really take place in a fight, man, when you don't really drill it except for when you're doing pad work, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we weren't in his corner, but I'd like to know that. I would like to know if his corner called for that or if he just through instinct did it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Oh,
I think
wow.
Mata always coming forward and leading forward. I think they kind of knew it was gonna be there, in my opinion.
Yeah. And if they did, the props to them, man.
Yeah.
Because that's why you watch film. That's why you do what you do
And if you're
to get
drop
those little advantages.
if you're dropping your lead hand, man, elbow's gonna
Yeah.
be there off the backside for sure.
Yeah. And I told my, I know we kind of get on subject, but my old lady watching it with me. I said, man, he's dropping his lead hand. He's going to be there. So, not the elbow, but I was like, he might
Yeah.
get caught. Sure enough, boom. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, wow. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nah,
that was crazy.
that was impressive. Torres at 55, I think can make some noise. I think he can get some exciting
Yeah.
finishes. And if he keeps doing this, man, I think you can see him, climbing up the ranks for sure.
And dude, another Mexican to keep that in mind, man.
Right.
Mexico's hot right now, dude. So
Definitely.
he's definitely somebody in this day and age they can market, man. So looking forward to seeing him against him.
Yes, sir. So moving up the card, the only fight that I did not see, Pat Sabatini versus Lucas Almeida. Did you watch this one?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna let you break this one down.
You didn't miss much in the sense of don't get me wrong, it was a great performance by Pat Sabatini,
Yeah,
but he did what we thought he was gonna do. Um Almeida was trying to strike from range. The minute he would throw a kick, the minute he was trying to get his strikes off, Sabatini, boom, goes in the distance, getting the body lock, shooting a single leg, things of that nature. Get him to the ground, lands the vicious ground and pound. For 2 rounds, really dominated 2 rounds. Um, I'm trying to think, did he stop him in the second round, sir?
yeah, second
Was
round
it the
on.
second round? Yeah. Oh, you know, landed some vicious ground and pound. Um, was doing his thing with ground and pound. Saw the opening for with the arm triangle, locked it in, stepped to the side, and forcing the tap. But man, he was like, like I said, the minute Almeida was scoring to get his fights off, close the distance to get him down, landed some devastating ground and pound. Really, all he want, he had the ground and pound working from the jump. You know, really did anything he wanted to do in that area. And then when he saw the opening for the arm triangle, he locked it in, stepped to the side, and was done. So very impressive performance by Pat Sabatini because I did pick him to win this
Right,
fight, and he did. He showed out. But this was a fight that I was kind of iffy about.
for
I
sure.
kind of went back and forth on that one. And Pat Sabatini, the veteran, another veteran against I don't want to say a prospect, but a younger guy
Right.
coming through. And Pat Sabatini,
So with Pat, he's 5-1 in the UFC right now. The loss against Damon Jackson, we could all agree he got clipped very early. When you get clipped early in a fight, it's very hard to come back into it. Um, if he doesn't lose that fight to Damon Jackson, he would be 5-0, 6-0 in the UFC, and we're talking about him, you know, being the next up and coming guy through the 145 division to enter those rankings. Now I think he got his position back. Do you see him fighting a ranked opponent like a number
yes,
15, 14? Yeah,
yes.
I think he
And,
earned it.
and I'm gonna tell you why. Not just because he won, but Jack, he legitimately dominated this fight from. I mean, this fight wasn't even close, and that's what surprised me about it. Because,
Right.
like I said earlier, This was a fight. Yes, I picked Pat Sabatini, and good. I'm glad I did because it makes me look good. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, this was the fight that I went back and forth on, man. And dude, he just freaking dominated us. It wasn't even close. This fight was never close.
Right.
Never. Not one moment in this fight was close.
All right, moving up the card, man. A lot of guys on the rise, man. And another guy that had a lot of hype behind him, CLD, man, Christian Leroy Duncan. It has his first loss to Armin Petrosian. And we said, man, Petrosian was a very good striker, had a striking back Muay Thai background, and can wrestle if needed be. He had wins over RoboCop, and CLD hasn't really been tested inside the UFC yet. And I think
Yeah,
this fight really, really showed, you have to stick to the basics, man. CLD that might have worked before the UFC, might have worked in the amateurs, but he wasn't setting up his spinning attacks. That takes a lot of energy out of you. And a guy like Petrosian is so fundamentally sound. He's not going to leave openings for that to land. And he almost finished the fight in the third round. I think very, very good win for Omer Petrosian. I want to say he's 3-1 in the UFC now. I mean, a guy in a middleweight division that needs contenders. He keeps on putting performances like that. That can only do good for him.
yeah, man. He is really solid win for him. I agree. I think CLD is gonna have a bright future and will have a chance to make some noise eventually. But you hit the nail on the head. You got to go back to the basics. You know, when you're at this level right now, right here, um, in the UFC, you can't afford just to throw spinning shit, spinning attacks out of nowhere. You got to set it up, and if it's not working, you can't continue to beat a dead horse.
Right.
You know? You got to stick to the basics, and he fought a veteran that's been around that seen more than him, at least on the big stage, has seen more than him. And took advantage of it. CLD was a little amped up, and he turned it into an MMA fight.
Absolutely.
Getting different looks, getting different things to think about, and ultimately really controlled the fight from start to finish, man. So big props to him.
All right, co-main event action. We had Armian Sarukian beating Joakim Silva. Armin Sarukian, took a risk in the fact that he's fighting an unranked guy. Nobody really wants to fight him. What are you gonna do? Sit around and wait for something, or are you gonna take a risk and go out there and perform? And that's what he did, man. Joakim Silva, had him hurt on the feet at one point.
Yeah,
Sarukian, kept his composure, was able to get the takedown and eventually stop him, man. And Sarukian is only 26 years old. I think when all the dust settles, man, 5 years from now, where Islam's out of there, Dustin's out of there, Gaethje's out of there, it's gonna be guys like him, Gamrot, and there are gonna be other guys coming in as well. But I think Sarukian has the title for sure. Like when all these guys are out of here, most definitely.
yeah, he did. He definitely has a chance to once the dust settles. But But yeah, man, looking at this fight, props to Silva first of all. Taking this fight on short notice, and look, he lost. Sarukian won, but then he had his moment. He hurt Sarukian. He didn't go in there scared. He came to fight. He was with a match and it showed. Sarukian took over in the back half of the fight. Eventually got to stop it. But Silva was going in there, let it hang loose, man. They ain't had nothing to lose. And to me, he earned a lot of our respect, even with a loss. To take that fight on short notice against a very talented guy, and having some trouble to start off with. Um, with that being said, props to Faruqian because he did get caught, but he cleared the cobwebs and stuck to the game plan. He didn't freak out. You see a lot of guys when they get punched in the face. Shout out to Mike Tyson. What does Mike Tyson say? Everybody has a game plan when they get punched in the face. Well, Sarukian got punched in the face. He cleared the cobwebs and stuck with the game plan to get the victory. So props to him as well. Very talented prospect. And I'm like you. I'm not gonna call him a world champion yet, but once the dust settles, he'll definitely have a legitimate chance to earn that title eventually, man. So props
Absolutely,
to him.
absolutely. I think there's like three guys who, once all the top guys are gone, they're gonna be contending with each other. I think it's him, Faziz, and Gamrot. Those three guys, keep your eyes on them
Yeah.
whenever the top dogs are out. I think that's the next crop. Um, Main event time, man. Probably one of my favorite fights so far this year. Jared Cannonier, Morgan Vettori. If you didn't watch it, man, do yourself a favor. Watch all 5 rounds. It's definitely worth it. First round, Vettori almost, he definitely hurts Cannonier a couple times. And it wasn't looking good at all. Cannonier makes the adjustment, stays out of southpaw. Every time he switches southpaw, Vettori make him pay. And second round comes in, he's starting to look like Cannonier. And he damn near almost finishes Vettori in the second round. Third round of Vittori just comes back swinging, but Cannonier is just too much for him. Um, Very fun fight. I think, it just shows middleweight division. You have Izzy, number one. Number two, you have Whitaker, and number three, Cannonier. Guys can't even get past Cannonier to get a title shot, man. I think middleweight division is like there's only two guys to really give Izzy a test, and he's already beat him, and that's Cannonier and Whitaker. What do you think this does for the middleweight division?
Uh, to me, it solidifies the top three guys. To me,
Yeah,
I don't know what else to say. You know,
yeah,
you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, what else does it do? You
yeah.
know, I'm gonna give my thoughts on this fight, and we could dive in maybe a little more um, on this fight. Both guys had their moments. Both guys came to fight. Very fun fight. Very, very, very fun fight. Um, with Jack Cannonier and Marvin Vettori. Um, but this was a fight that it was competitive, but it was one sided. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Very competitive, one sided fight.
Yep.
Um, both guys had their moments, but Cannonier always found a way to punctuate this exchange. Vittori would land his shots, but Cannonier was just one step ahead. Um, it was a very competitive, one sided fight. Jared Cannonier, man, showed that he's legit. You know, and look, I'm not saying Cannonier's gonna go beat Izzy. You know, 'cause that's a whole different monster. But if Cannonier continues to improve, who knows? Maybe one day. 'Cause I'm gonna tell you, I think that Cannonier is the third best in the world. Behind uh at least in that division, behind Izzy and
Whitaker.
Whitaker. And so yeah. So I mean, Cannonier continues to improve. He looked really good in that fight. Still surprised that he was an underdog heading into that fight. That that really surprised me. But yeah, Cannonier went in there and did his thing, man. So props to him.
So we have Cannonier at 39 years of age. He talked about specifically wanting to fight for the title or any fight that can lead him to the title. You have Vittori, who we already beat. You have Duplessis and Whitaker fighting. Um, Paulo Costa's fighting soon. Sean Strickland's fighting soon. So all of these top guys are pretty much taken. Um, I think if Cannonier would want to
I
get,
getting the win out of Duplessis and Whitaker. I getting the win out of that fight.
so here's what I'm getting to. If Cannonier wants to get a clear title shot, there's one guy that I think he beats. He's in there, and it's Kamzat, man. If he
Yeah,
beats Kamzat, title shot. You got to give it to him. Cannonier's only fought for the title once. He lost it to Izzy. Whitaker's already fought for the title twice. He's pretty much just eliminating challengers and hoping that, he gets a third fight that might not happen, or Izzy moves up and, he can get an interim title. Um, Duplessis wins, he's getting the title shot off of it. We know that. But if Cannonier would take that fight against Kamzat and beat him, I think Cannonier, that's his path to the title, man.
yeah. Do you think that's a realistic possibility of that fight happening?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd pay to watch that fight.
Because if you are the UFC, you want Khamzat to you want Khamzat to fight for the belt. Him versus Izzy is gonna sell. And you have a guy who just fought. So 2 or 3 months from now, put him against, Cannonier, and now you have a clear challenger for the middleweight. So
Yeah,
that's the UFC fight card in a nutshell. We did have Bellator fights. I'm gonna break down the most important fights right here. And first we had Corey Anderson beating Phil Davis. This was a fun fight to watch, especially if you really, really enjoy wrestling scrambles. I mean, the way these guys were wrestling for MMA, if you're a coach, if you're a fighter, you definitely want to watch this. Phil Davis was in there the whole entire time. It's just Corey Anderson was just a little bit more active on the hands, landing a little bit more strikes. And he gets the split decision victory. We had Sergio Pettis beating Patricio Pitbull in a big win, man. Pettis hasn't fought in over a year. This was his first fight back against a guy who's knocked out guys like Michael Chandler. Beat some of the best guys in Bellator, and Pettis gets to win at 35. So that's 35 has a lot of good guys that could compete in the UFC, most definitely. Main event, we had Vadim Nemkov getting a very, very dominant win over Yoel Romero. Nemkov is the 205 champ, and I'm telling you right now, if he was in the UFC, not saying he would have the title, but at the least, this guy's fighting for a title. Very good, can wrestle, can box, can do it all. If you haven't watched Nemkov, watch him just pick apart, Yoel Romero and all the other guys he's beat like Bader. With this being said, we know it'll never happen, Bellator versus UFC card, but you can't shy away from wanting to see the champ versus champ. Um, if you had a guy like Sergio Pettis at 35 fighting, the 35 champ Aljamain Sterling, you got a guy like Vadim Nemkov 205 fighting Jamal Hill. You it'd be interesting, man.
oh
Talk about
hell
the top
yeah,
top.
absolutely,
Who is really, really the best, you know what I'm saying?
truly the best in the world.
Right. So I don't think we'll get it anytime soon, but it would be fun to just see those fights play out. We also had the PFL, we had the heavyweights and the women's 145 compete. We had Maurice Green dropping a unanimous decision to Ant Deja. We had the champ Pacheco get an early knockout. Guys like Rena Ferreira, he's always fun to watch. He has a lot of viral knockouts. He ended up getting another one. We see Aspen Ladd get back in the win column. So PFL Bellator that night. I would say probably Bellator had the better showing. And yeah, man. It's just really interesting that you have Bellator, PFL, UFC, and it's like some of these guys I feel like can really, really hang with the UFC, but it's tough because the way it's operated. So my main question is how boxing does. Do you ever see UFC, Bellator, PFL working with each other?
Nope. I would love to see it, but nope.
No. Yeah,
No.
I could see PFL and Bellator working together in like one FC, but not the UFC, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Uncle D ain't gonna let nobody have a part of his thing.
Right, right. So moving up to the boxing world, we had, Regis Progress. He didn't look the best. It's hard whenever your opponent changes like 2 or 3 weeks before the fight. And it's also hard when the guy is fighting on his back foot the whole time. Um, do you think this hurts Regis's chances of getting a big fight, or does it help him getting a big fight?
I hate to say it, but I think it hurts. No, I mean, to me, it doesn't. It doesn't. I say it hurts. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but to me, a better showing would have definitely had him there. You know what I'm saying?
My thing is, I think, before this fight even happened, where like Devin Haney should not fight Regis. He should fight the easier fights. And if Regis has a bad showing, maybe he looks more beatable, and I think guys will take that chance of fighting him. That's why I say I think this helps him get a bigger fight.
I hope it does, man, because a lot of people sleep on Regis, but if you take this fight out of the equation, because Saturday night was not his best performance, but if you take that fight out of the equation and look what he's been doing before that, man, he was rolling, man. So we know what he's got in him. He
Right.
knows what he's got in him. Like you said, when you change opponents 2 3 weeks before a fight, it makes it a lot harder to really get in the rhythm. Just to get the guy of his opponent's style. But hey, he still went in there and got the job done. So props to the home state guy, the Rougarou. Hopefully he fights Devin Haney next and gets a really big fight because he
Yeah, man.
deserves it.
I think it's either Haney or Adrian Broner. That's who he actually likes.
Hey, I,
So
I wouldn't mind seeing him fight away at B man. Look, hey, look,
those are both
get
money
get.
fights, man.
Yep.
And at 35, you got to figure, time's ticking. You got to make as much money as you can in this game. And from what I heard, he made 2 M's on this one. So good to see him making that bread. PFL, Bellator, UFC, boxing, action-packed weekend. Anything you got to say before we close this thing out?
No, man. Great weekend of fights. We're gonna be back later this week for even more content. But continue to follow us. Continue to watch combat sports as a whole, man. Because if you like this past weekend's action, it's only gonna get better with boxing, UFC. It's only gonna get better in the next month or so. So continue to follow us on our YouTube channel here. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Flashshot Media. Leave your comments below. Hit the like button and spread the word for us, guys. Until next time, have a good one.
Peace.